Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Simple Living High Thinking, where we unpack Tukaram Prabhu's Friday night Bhagavad Gita class. Hi, Tadeo. I'm joined by Tadeo Souza. Thank you for
Kim.
being here. And we started chapter 11. So, what kind of context would you like to give?
That chapter 10, essentially, Arjuna asked Krishna, how can I see you in the material world? And Krishna so poetically described the various things that exist in the universe, in our world, let's say, that are either very powerful or very beautiful, very magnanimous. And Krishna was equating himself to these things, so that when we see the power of the sun being so bright and so hot, we would think, well, that's Krishna's power, that's Krishna's heat. When we see the patience of women, Krishna says, right? Of women, I am patience and fine speech. So all these good qualities of women, it's Krishna. And the prowess of powerful men, that's Krishna, right? So the shark of the animals in the ocean, Krishna is the shark because it's like the most ferocious animal there, or the Himalayas as the mountains. So all of these things that we can actually see with our current eyes in the material world, Krishna says, of all that is most beautiful and powerful and magnanimous, that's me. Know that that is me, that the energy for that, the possibility of that happening, the beautiful things you see, that's all me. And that's all nice and cool. And certainly Arjuna accepted all, but it's different than seeing Krishna directly, right? We are seeing the manifestation of Krishna in the form of this beauty and this power, etc. But that's just how can we say, like a manifestation, right? It's not Krishna directly. So Arjuna's reaction is quite interesting because it says, okay, I accept all these different variations or expansions of you as these other things, such as beauty and power and so on. But now I want to actually see you. How can you show me? How can I see you yourself? Not a manifestation of yourself, not a spark of your splendor, but actually you. How can I see that? Show me. And I think that that's very significant. Again, I'm done here with the context because that's what you asked for. The context is there, right? Chapter 10 is all these indirect manifestations of Krishna. In chapter 11, as we're going to see, is Krishna himself, like a proof, like we can say, an empirical proof of Krishna. So that's a very interesting context because those two top chapters goes hand in hand, having that in mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's just like taking it to another level, this
Yeah.
wanting to understand Krishna and how he appears in this world.
Yeah. So not only seeing Krishna as the light of the sun or this fragrance of a rose, which is Krishna, but actually Krishna. How can we actually see Krishna? And that's chapter 11, where Arjuna says, okay, cool, I accept it all. You are God. I can see your manifestations in the world by these various beautiful and magnanimous things that you just mentioned. But now show me you, right? Which I think is very, very significant. And it speaks a lot about our tradition in that we are very scientific and very philosophical, in that when we talk about, Tukaram was even discussing, like the rules and regulations of a debate. How do you set up a debate? Okay, first of all, there is your proposition, what it is that we are debating. And then if there's going to be a debate about that particular proposition, then some person or people will argue pro that proposition, and some people or person will argue against that proposition. And that's what the debate is like. But then the other part of the rule of a debate is, okay, now that we have established the proposition and who's going to argue for it and who's going to argue against it, now what we must define is what is good evidence. So otherwise, how do we know who won the debate? So you're going to have to bring up some evidence to substantiate you arguing against it or pro that proposition. And therefore, we need to understand what is good evidence. What does good evidence looks like? And that's really what Arjuna is doing here. Like I have already accepted you as all these different manifestations, but now I want to see you. So Arjuna is kind of like taking, okay, if you show me, like I'm already convinced, but if I can actually see you in an empirical way with my senses, if I can see you, well, that's really good evidence that Krishna is indeed everything he said he was. And I think that's very powerful. I think that's is very relevant because it speaks to our tradition being not dogmatic or based on blind faith. Because Arjuna is the main, well, Krishna is the main character here, but Arjuna perhaps is the second main character of the Bhagavad Gita because the conversation is being held between Krishna and Arjuna. And Arjuna is taking this rather scientific approach. He's saying, well, now I want to see you, which is very good evidence, right? And Krishna doesn't shy away from it. Krishna says, okay, you want to see me? Then here I am. And that's what chapter 11 is like. A God completely and fully in one place and with all of his incomprehensible features, right? Like where time and space collapses, as we will see in this chapter, because Krishna tells Arjuna, you can see everything in one place, even things of the past and the future. So like time and space even are losing their so-called reality. They're all collapsing within Krishna, but you would expect that because Krishna is God and everything is within him, including past, present, and future. And so Arjuna can actually see all that happening. And I think he speaks a lot to how we, devotees of Krishna, in this Krishna consciousness movement by Srila Prabhupada, are trained. You know, we are trained to understand what is good evidence, what good evidence looks like, and show me, like I want to see. Oh, yes, there's the theoretical understanding that Krishna is all that is beautiful and powerful and the biggest, bigger than the biggest and smaller than the smallest. Yeah, we have that philosophy. We have the philosophical, theological understanding. What does panentheism mean? So we have all that theology, but we are also very interested in an empirical realization. Like, show me, like I actually want to see you. And Krishna says, okay, then here I am. And there's the proof that Krishna is real is right there. So what are your thoughts so far on these points, Kim?
Yeah, when I first was reading through this chapter, it was amazing to me that, oh, wait a minute. Like you said, he's no longer talking about the sun and metaphors and in abstract ways. Arjuna's actually saying, no, here in my human body with my human understanding, I want to see you. And that just blows my mind that he even asked that, because with my Christian background, we were always taught that God's this eternally invisible thing that it's impossible. You would never ask for any sort of proof like that. So for Arjuna's mind to even go there, like, yeah, here in my physical body, I want to see you.
Yes.
I think it's an amazing question. So
yeah, and again, he speaks to the mind of devotees in our lineage. It's like, yeah, we have all the theology, we have all the philosophy, but we're gonna go the full scale, right? Like, I want to actually see you too. And Krishna complied. Krishna said, okay, here I am. I'm not bluffing, I'm not just saying I am this God, but here I am. Now you can see it. And I think that's a very, very special, because it takes us away from dogma, where, oh, you can just believe things. You don't even have to understand them, and you just believe them. Well, we are interested in fully understanding it, theoretically, theologically, philosophically. We're interested in that. We have that, but we don't shy away from the empirical either. Here I am. Krishna is showing you, and so I think that's very, very relevant. And one more point here. You said, I want to see you with my human eyes. Well, that's actually not possible. And it's going to come up here in this chapter. But what Krishna does is Krishna gives Arjuna a type of eyes with which Arjuna can actually see Krishna in his universal form, how he entered the universe. And what's going on there, right? Is it favoritism? Well, we covered that already in past podcasts and past episodes. That well, Arjuna is actually in love with Krishna. He has all the qualifications of a pure devotee, and therefore, our Krishna has already established his point that, hey, if you take steps towards me, I'll take many more steps towards you. In fact, Krishna declared in chapter 9 that for those devotees of his that are constantly thinking of him and engaging in devotional service to him, Krishna, dwelling in their hearts, will destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. And so Krishna does all that kind of stuff. And when Arjuna is asking, hey, I want to see you, because they are already at that level, it is not that Arjuna is just any person saying, oh, let me see you. That's essentially what the atheist scientists are bewildered about, because they can't see God with their empirical methods. They will never be able to see God with their empirical methods. Then the question may arise, well, then how come Arjuna was able to see Krishna in this empirical way with his actual senses? Well, because Krishna is in the platform of a devotee who loves, Arjuna is in the platform of a devotee who loves Krishna. And therefore, Krishna is allowing, that's the key word here, Krishna is allowing that type of devotee to see him in this empirical way. So you have to be qualified in order to see Krishna. Not that I am an atheist scientist who's who have a bunch of envy about Krishna. Like Krishna talks about the qualifications of the devotees, right? In chapter 9, Krishna says, because you're not envious of me, I am going to speak farther to you, which is even better than what I have already said before. So Arjuna's qualification is that he's non-envious. And that's exactly what the scientists, atheist scientists are. They are envious of Krishna because they don't understand how the material world works. And they're thinking, but with our own intelligence, we are going to figure it all out. And we don't need a God who did it everything. That's for you religious people who do not have the intelligence that we do as scientists. And you guys just going to default to God. Oh, God did it simply because you can't explain. But we're the ones actually doing the hard work. We're the ones that are going to figure out how the whole material existence works. And we don't need God because we are intelligent ourselves. That is the very definition of envy. They're so envious that there's a being that has all the knowledge and that being is not them. And they're trying to become that being by constantly expanding on their material science. So they're extremely envious and therefore they're never going to see Krishna. Krishna is going to, by definition, remain outside the realms of empiricism because he's hidden. It is appropriate. It is how it should be. And so this atheist scientist will never see, but there's a huge difference between atheist scientists or atheist philosophers, for that matter, not being able to see Krishna and Arjuna being able to see Krishna. First of all, Arjuna is an envious. He's actually in love with Krishna. And therefore, Krishna is destroying the ignorance of Arjuna's heart in various different ways by enhancing his faith, by allowing Arjuna, by giving Arjuna the opportunity to engage in more and more devotional service, the battle of Kurukshetra itself being one of them. And then also by complying with Arjuna's desire, which, like you brought up, Kim, it's so bewildering, isn't it? Like in Christianity, you say a lot that Christianity is the tradition that you grew up in, but so did I. I think I made this point in the past, so I'm very familiar with this as well. How dare us want to see God? Who are we to see God? In fact, that's blasphemy. Like, you mean to say that you are potent enough or good enough to actually see Jesus, to see God? Like, how? That's blasphemy. How dare you even have that desire? But here we see not only Arjuna having that desire, but Krishna complying with it. Arjuna says, hey, I want to see you. Krishna says, okay, you love me. You're dedicating your life to me. You're thinking about me the whole time. You're going to engage in this work because of me asking you, which even though it's something very difficult for you to do, and you're still going to do it because you love me. So why wouldn't, if this is a relationship of reciprocation, and Krishna is the perfect reciprocator, why wouldn't Krishna then allow Arjuna to see him if Arjuna is his pure loving devotee? So there's a huge difference between, atheists, philosophers or scientists, or even us who are not at the level of Arjuna yet. But once we do get there by means of our spiritual practices, such as chanting and association with devotees, eating prasad, discussing scriptures, etc., all the processes of bhakti yoga, once we have engaged in that process sincerely enough for a long enough period of time, then yes, Krishna is going to reciprocate with us. And it is very fine, in my estimation, that Arjuna asks, hey, I want to see you. Krishna knows, yes, you're qualified to see me. So let me give you some special type of eyes that you can see me. And here I am. And again, there's all that is going on. Arjuna was interested in seeing, not just accepting theoretically and theologically speaking. He wanted to empirically see. He speaks something about our nature, devotees in Krishna consciousness. And then also that we have to be qualified. We can, like if I go out right now and say, well, first of all, Krishna is not in front of me, like he was in front of Arjuna. That says something that you should know, Kim. I am not Arjuna. But and furthermore, right? So if I can see Krishna, and what to speak of seeing Krishna in his universal form, but Arjuna can. So that should also motivate us that, hey, as we continue to engage in the processes of bhakti yoga, not only we are going to have a much higher experience, a much higher existence, an existence where we see everybody as equal, we love everybody, our hate, our fear, our anger, our anxiety decreases, our love, our compassion, our understanding, our clarity increases, and all that is great. But also we can see Krishna even in this world. So it should motivate us to to let us know that yes, we can actually see Krishna eye to eye. It's all a matter of us using our free will properly and engage in Krishna service.
Yeah, I really like your points about just being qualified and the amount of grace that's part of the equation, where, oh, it's not just us getting more knowledge and following this step, this step, this step to build that stairway to heaven, and then following a formula, but we depend so much on the grace of God to even have the knowledge, have the desire to go further, and it's such a partnership.
Exactly. I'm thinking now, Kim, how about we go through the texts, 1 through 33? That's quite a few. Do you think, should we read them all and then continue our discussion? Or is there particular ones that you'd like to touch on?
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to read them all. They flow really well. 33 is a good stopping point. That's where we stopped in class.
Okay. You want to go for it?
Okay. Okay. All right. So it starts out Arjuna said, by my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. O lotus-eyed one, I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity and have realized your inexhaustible glories. O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you here before me in your actual position, as you have described yourself, I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. If you think that I am able to hold your cosmic form, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that unlimited universal self. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of varied divine and multicolored forms. See here the different manifestations of sorry for butchering this,
Yes.
Adityas, Vasus, and Rujas, Ashwini Kumaras, and all the other demigods. Behold the many wonderful things which no one has ever seen or heard of before. O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold it once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything moving and non-moving is here completely in one place. But you cannot see me with your present eyes. Therefore I give you divine eyes. Behold my mystic opulence. Sanjaya said, O king, having spoken thus, the supreme lord of all mystic power, the personality of Godhead, displayed his universal form to Arjuna. Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes, unlimited wonderful visions. The form was decorated with many celestial ornaments and bore many divine upraised weapons. He wore celestial garlands and garments, and many divine scents were smeared all over his body. All was wondrous, brilliant, unlimited, all expanding. If hundreds of thousands of suns were to rise at once into the sky, their radiance might resemble the effulgence of the Supreme Person in that universal form. At that time, Arjuna could see in the universal form of the Lord the unlimited expansions of the universe situated in one place, although divided into many, many thousands. Then, bewildered and astonished, his hair standing on end, Arjuna bowed his head to offer obeisances and with folded hands began to pray to the Supreme Lord. Arjuna said, My dear Lord Krishna, I see assembled in your body all the demigods and various other living entities. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Lord Shiva and all the sages and divine serpents. O Lord of the universe, O universal form, I see in your body many, many arms, bellies, mouths, and eyes expanded everywhere without limit. I see in you no end, no middle, and no beginning. Your form is difficult to see because of its glaring effulgence, spreading on all sides like blazing fire or the immeasurable radiance of the sun. Yet I see this glowing form everywhere, adorned with various crowns, clubs, and discs. You are the supreme primal objective. You are the ultimate resting place of all this universe. You are inexhaustible and you are the oldest. You are the maintainer of the eternal religion, the personality of Godhead. This is my opinion. You are without origin, middle, or end. Your glory is unlimited. You have numberless arms, and the sun and moon are your eyes. I see you with blazing fire coming forth from your mouth, burning this entire universe by your own radiance. Although you are one, you spread throughout the sky and the planets and all space between. O Great One, seeing this wondrous and terrible form, all the planetary systems are perturbed. All the hosts of demigods are surrendering before you and entering into you. Some of them, very much afraid, are offering prayers with folded hands. Hosts of great sages and perfected beings crying, All peace, are praying to you by singing the Vedic hymns. All the various manifestations of Lord Shiva, the Adityas, the Vasus, the Sadyas, and Vishvadevas, the two Ashvis, the Maruts, the forefathers, the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, and Asuras, and the perfected demigods are beholding you in wonder. O mighty armed one, all the planets with their demigods are disturbed at seeing your great form, with its many faces, eyes, arms, thighs, legs, and bellies, and your many terrible teeth. As they are disturbed, so am I. O all-pervading Vishnu, seeing you with your many radiant colors touching the sky, your gaping mouths, and your great glowing eyes, my mind is perturbed by fear. I can no longer maintain my steadiness or equilibrium of mind. O Lord of Lords, O refuge of the worlds, please be gracious to me. I cannot keep my balance seeing thus your blazing, death-like faces and awful teeth. In all directions I am bewildered. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings, and Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and our chief soldiers, are rushing into your fearful mouths, and some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. As the many waves of the rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter blazing into your mouths. I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people from all sides with your flaming mouths. Covering all the universe with your effulgence, you are manifest with terrible, scorching rays. O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people, with the exception of you. All the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. Therefore, get up, prepare to fight, and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you can be but an instrument in the fight. And that was text 33.
Thank you for this reading, Kim. That was so nice. So, something that inevitably jumps at me as I'm hearing you read all this text is that, well, wait a minute, something happened, right? We've been talking about Krishna being so beautiful and so kind and so loving, and we should dedicate our entire life to enhance our love by Krishna, towards Krishna. And then now it's kind of strange. Krishna is saying something like, I've come here to kill everybody, to destroy all people. They have already been put to death by me. And like, what's happening? And so I want to again point out how complete our theology is. Uh, as we were discussing earlier, not only we have a complete theological and philosophical understanding of God, but also empirical ways of seeing God. So now let's expand on what do we really mean by a complete theology. So if one says in a rather poetic language, oh, God is the beginning, the middle, and the end of all things, poetically speaking, we hear that and I'm seduced by its poetry. I'm thinking, yeah, that's befitting of God. He's the beginning, the middle, and the end of all things. And I only see that which sounds so beautiful and nice to my eyes. But if we deeply examine what that means, the beginning, sure, you can think about, a baby being born or Brahma being born of Krishna's navels and then praying in deep meditation to create the universe, which is the Vedic accounts for creation. And that is nice, it's the beginning. And then the middle, we can see things going on, a sunset going on in a random day in the universe, and all is quite beautiful. Spring is coming up, and it's the middle. Things are being maintained and things are going on. But how about the end? Like, what is the end like? What does the end imply? Well, in our human understanding, the end is death. We die. In the end, sorry to say this to you, Kim, or to anybody who's not who is maybe listening. If you haven't figured out yet, you're going to die. That's your end, and it's quite empirical. It has happened to everybody who has been born, and there's a very high chance that it's going to happen to us too. So we die, and that's not nice. Like, what is death like? There can be agony, there can be fear, there can be pain, there can be heads smashed between teeth, and which is the description here. That's how these warriors are dying. And so Krishna doesn't shy away. Our theology is indeed complete. Krishna is the beginning, Krishna is the middle, and Krishna is the end. And these verses, they are giving us a glimpse of what the end looks like. And so it speaks to how complete our theology is. Our conception of Krishna is full and complete. It's only up to our capabilities of understanding to realize it all. And the more we evolve in our spiritual consciousness, the more we can understand Krishna. And a preliminary way here is understanding, yeah, Krishna is the end also. And the end looks like that. It's unfortunate. That's why Krishna urges us to not come back here to this world. Krishna says, he said many times in the Gita, he said, the entire universe is comprised of misery. From the top of the heavenly planets to the bottom of the hellish planets and everything in between, Krishna says, are all places of misery where birth and death are repeatedly taking place. So Krishna has already said that. So when we hear a description of what the end looks like here, we shouldn't be surprised. Krishna already said, this is, as long as we hear in material bodies, it's misery because it has a beginning and it has an end. And that's what the end looks like. And Krishna is the beginning, the middle, and the end. So when we hear things like this, we shouldn't be surprised. That's just what the end looks like. And I don't want to have my head smashed between Krishna's teeth. I want to be loving Krishna and eating and dancing and listening to Krishna playing the flute. And for that, I need to use my free will properly and love and serve Krishna so I don't have to come back here. So this is this drastic change in the tonality of the Gita that we are presented with here in chapter 11 shouldn't be to our surprise. This is just what a complete theology looks like without being afraid to unturn any stones. We are turning all the stones, and the stone of the end looks like that, and that's what the end looks like. And one other point here, I'm fully on Krishna's defense now. So the other point is when Krishna says, um, "Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds." By the way, that's entropy, right? We know the law of entropy. Time, it destroys everything. Everything is destroyed by time. So Krishna is saying, "Time I am." It's a scientific statement here. "Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds. I have come here to destroy all people." To me, that sounds like a monster. To me, like sounds like a very powerful being. That it was a combination of Stalin, Hitler, and Mao, all in one. Put these three personalities together and give them even more power and more wisdom. It sounds like they would say something like that, right? "I have come here to destroy all people." Like, who would say that? Like, definitely not this Krishna that we are talking about is so kind and loving and beautiful. He's saying, "I have come here to destroy all people. All the soldiers here on both sides will be slain." So, what's going on here? Why is Krishna, is Krishna having a bad day? And like, did somebody make him angry? And then now he's like letting it out on us, you know? And no, Krishna has already said in the Gita, he said that at the time that irreligious people and irreligiosity rises and becomes prominent, and religious principles decline and is almost extinct, and that there's a predominance of evil, not evil, but there's a predominance of ignorant people on the planet. Krishna says, "At that time, I come myself." So here it is again, a God who is all good and all powerful and all knowledgeable. That's our Krishna. Because what happens is these kings that were bad kings that caused the war of Kurukshetra to take place to begin with, they're all demons. And there was a tremendous rise in irreligion, in demoniac like people, demonic minded people on the planet at that time, to the point that all of the devotees were just being harassed and perturbed by these demon like personalities that were present on the planet. And it would be very difficult for the devotees and, let's say, the good people to overcome the immense amounts of ignorance that was present on the planet. So they needed help. So Krishna, knowing that that was the case, and Krishna being all powerful and all loving, trying to help his devotees, he comes here and act thus. So it is appropriate. Krishna is coming here to help us, to save us. So then he said, "Hey, I come here to destroy all people," because unfortunately it's that time. It's that time of the earth's history where there's a high rise in demonic minded people, in irreligion, and religion is practically extinct. So at that time, I come myself. So I think it's very befitting, like let's say I see my children and they're trying to do a puzzle. They're having fun, but if the puzzle is too difficult that they can't do it themselves, but yet they have such a great desire to finish the puzzle, then I may step in with my amazing intelligence to finish that puzzle, and so I may step in and help my children finish the puzzle. So Krishna is kind of doing the same. Hey, there's nothing that the religious warriors could do against this overwhelmingly predominant demonic soldiers that were around the earth at that time. So Krishna came, he stepped in and helped us. So that's what's happening here.
It's nice to know that context. Thank you. Yeah. When I was reading those verses, it's such a vivid scene that Krishna's painted, not even painted, showing directly
Exactly.
Arjuna. So it's I like that too. As you mentioned, this tradition doesn't shy away from any hard questions, and that beginning, middle, and end text that you quoted is such a good example of, oh yeah, in the beginning it sounds really nice and fluffy, but when you think about it, okay, this idea that time destroys everything, yeah, it really does. Everything, even computers, the pieces wear out, you have to replace the hardware. So all these billionaires who are trying to get their consciousness into a computer so it can live forever, they can live forever. They're going to need some sort of redundant solutions for hardware if that's going to go
That's
on.
right.
So yeah, it's a really powerful statement about time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I like text 33, how he ends, where, we've talked about this in past episodes, where if Krishna showed us that he was God with our, here on earth in this existence, we really not have much choice but to fall down and worship him forever. It'd be, kind of affecting our free will. But in text 33, he's once again reiterating that Arjuna does ultimately have free will to choose. Yeah, these things are going to happen, but I like that he's still coming back to the fact that, hey, you have free will. I want you to do what you want to do. So
Interesting. Yeah. I have one more point in regards to chapter 7, text 7, where Krishna says, "O Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything, moving and unmoving, is here completely in one place." So again, that's how bewildering God's opulences are. So everything, even things of the past and the future, things that are moving and unmoving, they are there in one place. So space and time seems to be collapsing, right, in one thing, which is Krishna's body, and everything is there. So the totality of the entire universe is what Krishna is saying here. This universal form of mind can show you whatever you now desire to see. That is very fascinating to me. And here's why. I think it goes along with what you're saying too, Kim, about free will. And it's like very like new age spirituality that you can see nowadays. Like whatever you focus on, you attract. And if you think about something consistently and the way you think and how you feel and the energy will cause the universe to rearrange itself, and it's going to attract that thing to you, and then it's going to be manifested in your life. So you have this vision board with a really beautiful car and a house, and that's what you're constantly visualizing, and then the universe will bring it to you, right? This is very like new age spirituality. It's not very substantiated. Like anybody can write a book. Well, takes a little bit amount of discipline, write a book, put it on Amazon and talk about these things. And there's a bunch of stuff like that available. But isn't that what's being said here? If all that exists in the universe, past, present, and future, moving and unmoving, is at once presence in Krishna's body, and Krishna tells Arjuna, you can see whatever you desire to see, then it means that there's so many things that are there that if you're not desiring, you're not going to see it. And if you are desiring, if you're focusing your mind on a particular thing, your desire is fully there and you're present to that thing, you're meditating on the thing, you're visualizing the thing, all the new age stuff that we hear nowadays. If you're focusing on that, then guess what? You're going to see that, because everything that you can possibly conceive of is in Krishna's body. And Krishna is saying, whatever you desire to see, that you will see, because it's all that at once in Krishna's body. So it does imply that we have this minute free will, to fulfill our foolish desires. Because whatever it is that we desire to see, we will see. And as long as we are desiring to see things here in the material world, we will have to come back to another body and then another body, another lifetime, because I still have the desire to see something that is material. But once we let go of that desire and we are now focused on serving Krishna, which is spiritual 100%, then we got rid of all of our material desires. We are no longer wanting to see anything here. And then now we are qualified to go back there because we no longer have these material desires to see anything. So it's like two things, right? One, that our desire is really what's keeping us here, and it is predicated on our free will, on our minute free will. Because Krishna is saying, whatever you want to see, you can see. The totality of the entire universe and all things that exist are here right now, right before you. But you're not going to see everything. You're only going to see that which you desire to see. And that's the concept of neo-spiritualists that bring this up. It is true, but it's not to be used in a material way. It's not that, oh, now let's really focus and let's really desire to see this stuff and then we can see it. No, that's a trap. We don't want to see anything here. We want to see things there. And so there is the sense in which we have this minute free will. And if I desire to see Krishna, then I can also see Krishna. You know, it's whatever it is that we desire to see.
Yeah, I had a lot of confusion around this teaching of Krishna giving us what we desire. We talked about it here on the podcast, actually. It was one of the earlier episodes we ever did. This idea that Krishna will give us what's in our heart of hearts, even if that means I want to have a mansion or and not live close to a temple, or even though I want, ideally I want to desire to live at the temple full time, give up all my material possessions and do book distributions. What's in my heart of hearts is I'm not there at this point of time in this lifetime. I'm just not there. So this idea, maybe you can add some clarity to it about Krishna gives us what we desire, because this text about whatever you wish to see, to me sounds like, wow, that's room for a lot of trouble, because we could take it from a psychological point of view of what you wish to see. Do you wish to constantly see suffering? Do you wish to see your life as just punishment by God? Do you wish, what you wish to see, you'll definitely get it from a mental health point of view. And so there's just a lot of outcomes that I see that could happen of what do I desire and what is Krishna going to give to me, and how that all works together with my free will choice. And
there is enormous amounts of theology in here, in these points that you just made, and also philosophy. Perhaps we should have an episode dedicated to this alone. I'll do my best in my flawed way to address some of the points you brought up, but there's like a whole lot. So first of all, let's talk about the main prominent questions that humankind have been asking themselves since time immemorial. Why am I here? And where do I come from? And what is the purpose of my life? Those are the questions that mankind have been asking themselves since time immemorial, through scientific means, through philosophical means. Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, all the philosophers we can think of, all scientists, that these are the questions, right? Why am I here? Where do I come from? And what is the purpose of my life? Well, and our theology fully explains these questions. Well, the reason why we're here is because we want to experience what it's like to live without Krishna. We became envious of Krishna in the spiritual world because Krishna is the center. And we want to experience a life without Krishna, where Krishna isn't the center, but rather you are. And so here you are, where you are the center of your own universe. It is my job, my car, my family, my dreams, my hopes, my past, my whatever. You're the center of everything. So here you are. having an experience without Krishna, an experience what would it be like to have all these foolish desires where you are the center and not Krishna. And what would that be like? That's your desire. So it's very fitting that Krishna creates, therefore, the entire universe, makes himself not, seemingly absent, as we were discussing now, who can and cannot see Krishna, is seemingly absent, and it is a good trick. Like you can't see him unless you really want to see him. You can't see him; he's not around, and you're having all these desires. So that's the very purpose why we're here, to experience life without Krishna and experience all these foolish desires of ours. So if I desire to like put a bunch of Jewish people in one gas chamber and kill them all because I'm trying to uh, rise the Aryan race, who is the best race, and we're going to dominate the world. That's your desire. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but sure, have that desire. It's kind of trickling. It's troublesome. I think that's part of the reason why you're asking that question. Why would Krishna even allow me to either have the desire or let alone fulfill the desire, right? But hey, that's the reason why you're here. You want to have an experience of what is life like without Krishna, and you want to have fulfill of these foolish desires. Then go for it and have it, do it. Krishna will allow that to happen, but he doesn't allow that to happen in a way that you're going to go deeper and deeper on a dark hole from which you cannot get out. The idea of eternal hell. There is hell, but people like Hitler will go there. People like Mao and Stalin, they will go there, but they're going to learn their lessons. That's what the temporary hell that does exist is for. You're going to recognize that, hey, I caused a tremendous amount of suffering for a lot of people. Now I'm suffering. I'm going to experience that which I caused to others. It's a perfect system. It's the system of karma. That's why Christ said, do unto others like you like others doing unto you. If you want to do this to others, like be Hitler like, Stalin like, Mao like, if you're going to be like that, then you're going to have that done to you. So you're going to see that, hey, that desire of yours is not good. And you have the opportunity to learn. And how else would you learn? Unless you actually came here, you had a desire, then do it. And then now experience what the results are. Did you like it? No. Well, then it means that all these people that you did this to, they didn't like it either. So now how do you like it having it done for you in hell, experiencing that? Because that's what you put people through. You put people through hell. So now you go there and see what it's like. Did you like it? No. Have you learned? Yes. Now I know I should not do this again. So this foolish desire of mine, I'm complete with. I'm done. I'm never again going to be Hitler-like because I know what it's like. It sucks. That's what I'm putting people through. And I've experienced. It sucks. I'm not going to do that again. I've learned my lesson. It's an awesome system. It's a perfect system because otherwise you still have the desire. That's why you're here, you know? And so I don't know if I
Yeah, thank you.
the points that you brought up. Is that a little bit clarifying?
Definitely. Yeah, especially the idea of, oh, you want to see what life is like without me because you're envious. Like, here you go.
Here
That
you
makes
are.
perfect sense to me.
And
And
there's a bunch of other people like that, right? With that
yeah.
mentality. There's a bunch of other people thinking they're the center of the
Oh,
universe.
yeah.
That's why we fight. That's why we have wars.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see karma as, or karma Paul, as such a loving way for Krishna to guide us. These karmic reactions that we have, where, okay, you want to go down that path. That's a dark path to go down, but have at it. And then now there are reactions to those choices. And then that helps us learn the lessons. So
Exactly.
it's just, like you said, it's such a complete, perfect system to keep us from going too far down a certain path.
Exactly. That's why I really enjoy, talking to you about this. Hopefully, our listeners are getting these points as well. That And there's a complete theology here. If we take a look at our history through the Middle Ages, where times are really bad, there was a lot of dogma going on. And people were taking Christianity, the Judeo-Christian tradition, essentially as just a bunch of dogma and using that to justify crusades and inquisitions and the torture of so many people. So it was that's why it's called dark times. And then we get to the Renaissance, the Enlightenment period, where they say, okay, enough of this. If we can't see it, we're not going to believe it. And that's essentially the rise of empiricism, right? The people like Galileo and Newton and Albert Einstein, they start popping up and they say, hey, you know what? We can explain a whole lot of things without the need of this dogmatic stuff that you're all talking about, and which has caused so much self-evident troubles to so many people. Dark ages are really terrible. And so the rise of empiricism comes through this enlightenment period of the Renaissance, where it's like, you know what? Forget about all this dogma of all this religion. We only going to believe now in that which we can see. And I don't blame anybody who ever had that kind of thought, because it was indeed terrible. It's called dark ages for a reason. And the Renaissance gave us something that we can believe without having to have dogma. And he actually, he brought about tremendous amount of benefits to human society. Our society as it is now is much superior than it was before. The death rate, so much better. All the comfort that we now have due to this enlightenment period, right? And the empiricism, science has given humanity a much better life experience. Certainly, the 20th century wasn't the best, with Mao, Hitler, Stalin, and all that, but it did give us a lot of good things. But now, where do we go from here? It's quite obvious that empiricism and science alone is not going to make us happy. We can see that with all the facilities that we now have due to science, the Renaissance period, and so on, is still depression is the modern disease, is a contemporary disease that everybody's impacted to. So science cannot solve those things. So where do we go from here? I would argue that we go back to religion, right? But a theology that is complete, a theology that makes sense, a theology that you can think, okay, let me suspend my agnostic position. Let me just suspend that for a moment and let me entertain the thoughts that God exists. What would that God be like? And if you look at what God would be like through the eyes of this particular theology, then suddenly you're now hearing about a God who is reasonable, a God who is indeed all good and all powerful and all knowledgeable. And then now we can combine both the complete and reasonable theology that Krishna is describing here, along with our scientific advancements to the better of entire humanity. So it's this chapter to me speaks in essence, so many things, but that there is room for empiricism. We can actually see God. You don't have to take dogma. Think about the theology, how complete it is. That God is reasonable. It's not the God that was being postulated through the dark ages. This is a different God. It's the same God. God is one, but it's a different theology. It's being presented in a way that is actually reasonable, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are at the end of our episode, but thank you so much for leading this nice discussion. And I look forward to class next week for sure to finish off this chapter.
Me too.
All right. And thank you to everyone who listened. And we hope to see you next week. Haribol.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.